for anyone watching or listening to this, just the way we gain knowledge now, it's pretty wild. Like, are you going to film school?
No, I was going to film school, and I had an opportunity to direct a short that I had written, and
Yeah.
I ended up leaving to do
Nice.
that, and I've kind of just been working on my own. And
And no regrets
no,
about that.
not at all. I've been going off, and I've been learning.
Nice.
I mean, Tarantino was working in a VHS store when he, got hired for for when he got hired for Reservoir Dogs. I mean, he's the one who's always said, you don't need an education, you don't need to go to school. If you love movies, you can't help but go on and make good movies. It's just what you'll do.
So I was just watching. I had some free time, so I was just basically watching every single Christopher Nolan interview I could go through within a couple of hour time span. And one of the things he said is that you have to learn to be resourceful. Like he was talking about his first film, and when you see the man's creative evolution from his first films, and you go and watch something like Dunkirk, for example, it's pretty inspiring to watch that, right? And then of course he never officially went to film school, so. He spoke about being resourceful, and I've been trying to learn some of the dynamics of camera operation and photography and things of that nature. So I have this gimbal that I ordered that's just for the iPhone, because the one for the DSLR is pretty out of the budget for right now. So I was just playing around and saying, okay, well, I like the slider shot, I like the pan shot, but if I hold it with the gimbal, it's still not stable enough. So how can I actually get this to work in a way? So I was just playing around, put it on the tripod, and just kind of move the tripod a little, and it kind of gave me that motion. It's still not a perfect pan because you don't have a slider per se. So the tripod is actually fixed, obviously, in a location. So you're just kind of arching it and panning. So it's a different way of panning, but it worked. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So then when you kind of get your feet wet in that regard, and even that if that is the most basic thing, it's like it's a domino effect mentally, because then you start seeing links in other places, and that ultimately I think helps your knowledge. As you start connecting the dots in this weird way.
And then that is true. And a lot of filmmaking is ingenuity, coming up with stuff on the fly and just having that mind for it.
Exactly.
And I think, but that is another one of the, if you're going to weigh pros and cons of film school, is you don't have to really worry about, a gimbal being too expensive. You go there, you'll fill out a form, and you'll get a gimbal, and you'll get like $30,000 worth of lights.
Really?
Stuff like that. I'm probably exaggerating.
I don't know. I don't know where I was reading this, but it was something to the effect of you can get virtually any piece of equipment. That's the only real benefit of going to film school is the access you have.
That was one of the pros that I had considered, and one of the big cons was I think it can be a bit restricting sometimes in terms of creativity, because personally, I'm more of when it comes to film, I'm more of a pre-production guy. I consider myself more of a writer than a filmmaker, and that's something I've been coming to terms with recently. But and one of the things that kind of pushed me away from the film school I was going to was our final for this one semester was to do a fake news broadcast. And they go, we have a pre-made script for you guys. You guys have to film it, or you guys can write your own. So I wrote my own, and I handed it in to my professor so he can verify it. And he looked at it, and he goes, this is one of the funniest things a student's ever turned into me. He goes, but this is not close enough to a news broadcast, so you can't do it. And in my mind, I was like, but it's a news broadcast. It's two people sitting there talking. They just get in for problems about alcoholism and how they hate world affairs. But I was like, and that's what made me angry. I was like, this is semantics, and you're restricting me over semantics. And I think that was one of the things where when I got an opportunity to go off and do my own thing and intern at a studio, I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to try to make it work.
That's something I've been struggling with as well, is if we live in an age where restriction is at an all-time low, right? It's those traditional structures, like the semantics that you pointed out, that are really interesting. Because why would you want to first do that to something that you're also acknowledging is funny, is creative, is original, is the best of something that you've seen? Why would you try to box that in? It's pretty wild.
I agree.